For commercial transactions, gone are the days of the sit-down closing. Today, commercial closings take place almost exclusively electronically. Here are some general tips to help buyers and sellers of real property, business assets, or business ownership interests prepare for electronic closings. Tip number 1, be cognizant of which date is selected for closing. Typically, a closing date is set a certain number of days in the future that will allow sufficient time for a purchaser to perform requisite due diligence. It is recommended that purchasers and sellers, and their attorneys, take a closer look at the date set for closing and follow these guidelines. Be wary of setting a closing date on a Friday. Let's face it, workplaces around the country on Fridays are not paragons of industrious and efficient activity, and are often not fully staffed because of extended weekend plans. For example, bank wires, which require multiple human approvals, are notoriously slow on Friday afternoons. Similarly, last-minute changes requiring the input of a third party, such as expanding insurance coverage, can be more difficult to confirm on the last day of the work week. And if the purchase involves an operating business, a closing scheduled for Friday that fails to close can leave a lengthy limbo period over the weekend. Be wary of Mondays also. A few of the considerations that apply to Friday closings also apply to Monday closings. Unless the deal is large enough that it will warrant unfailing attention by all parties involved throughout the weekend, gaps in deliverables that existed Friday afternoon will likely exist Monday morning. Set closing in advance of actual deadlines. Unless other considerations exist, make sure the date set for closing is set at least a few days or more if possible before the deadline to ensure that the closing will occur in time. Next, schedule to be available the days leading up to and after a closing, if possible. Invariably, in the days leading up to a closing, revisions to agreements will need to be approved, documents will need to be signed, and important decisions will have to be made. Closing statements are often not finalized and agreed to until the actual date of closing. Although many of us have busy schedules, plan to have access to phone and email in the days around closing. If your schedule will leave you out of pocket around closing, you should communicate your availability to your attorney. Tip number 3, be responsive. For large transactions, closing documents may go through many iterations before being finalized. The time frame for getting documents finalized can disintegrate quickly if a buyer or seller fails to approve revisions for just a couple of days. Additionally, matters may arise that could affect a purchaser or seller's decision to move forward with the transaction. Responsiveness may ensure you are able to walk away without penalty or amend the deal to more favorable terms. Finally, deliver what you must. If you have reason to believe that the other party will attempt to renege on its closing obligations, in order to be entitled to all the remedies for default under a purchase agreement, you may still have to show that you're ready, willing, and able to close on the date set for closing. Because there is no sit-down closing, you will have to do more than just show up to a physical location. In order to ensure you meet this standard for remote closings, deliver to the closing or escrow agent or other side as appropriate, to the best of your ability, all documents required to be delivered to you under the purchase agreement, which may include deeds, assignments, or bills of sale. If you or your attorney cannot finalize all documents without input from the other side, send signature pages to such documents to the appropriate closing party to be held in escrow, and try to produce a written record showing that you submitted requested revisions or comments to the closing documents to the other side. For a purchaser, demonstrating that you are ready, willing, and able to close should also entail wiring the required purchase price to the appropriate closing or escrow agent. Your attorney should guide you through this process. As always, hiring an attorney with experience in commercial closings early in the process, ideally before drafting a purchase and sale agreement, is the best way to ensure that a remote closing is handled smoothly and professionally. For more information, please visit my blog at bfelaw.com. And as always, please let me know if I can help.